So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, recorded live on blogtalkradio.com on July 23rd, 2008.
This is a story about a woman who wanted to be a jazz singer and refused to let anything stop her. It's the story of Miss Anita O'Day.
We can hear most of you saying, Anita who?
When on the moonlit lonesome shining through the trees. When on the moonlit lonesome shining through the trees.
She started singing at the age of 12 for coins thrown on a dance floor. She just barely made enough money to pay the rent as a band singer, a canary, in the 40s. She had 2 bad marriages and was a heroin addict for 15 years.
Gene says, you can swing, you better come with us.
Right.
And I think...
What makes a documentary film appealing to you? For me, it's either a subject in which I'm already invested, of course, or one in which I'm just curious enough to give it a try. Well, I didn't know much about Anita O'Day, the jazz singer whom Robbie Cavolina and Ian McCrudden have immortalized in their new film, Anita O'Day, The Life of a Jazz Singer. It would have been just as easy to take a pass on this, but I'm glad I didn't. O'Day, whose voice could be both lilting and a little rusty, and that's in a good way, was gifted with a phenomenal instrument. And she lived a crazy life, falling into serious heroin abuse for nearly 15 years. Hers is a story natural to documentary filmmaking, and I encourage you to check it out. Robbie, welcome to Mr. Media.
Hey, Ian's on the line as well.
Oh, hey, Ian, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Doing good. I'm just kind of wondering, what got you guys started on Anita O'Day?
Rob? Well, I'd met her years ago and kind of fell in love with her and her music and decided that this would kind of be just like you said, kind of a great subject for a film, so I kind of started from there. And I just thought she was so cool that I wanted to, do it. And when I met her, I just really hit it off and just, you meet somebody, you just want to hang around them, So...
And then Robbie and I have been editing together for a while, and he had also been working with her, managing her music, so oftentimes he was consumed with that, but he would keep me abreast of what was going on. And when they decided to go on tour at 83, 84, to Paris and London and New York, and then she was going to make an album, I got a woman who I'd produced another movie with, and I said, hey, this is something we should really do, and Robbie would welcome us on, and we could all go and document this, and that's sort of where the whole thing began. Now, Robbie had also been amassing lots of footage and had done some interviews with Anita himself in the time that he had spent with her, so we weren't starting from zero, but we thought we had something to wrap the film around with this touring and record making in her late age.
And Robbie, tell me the story of what Anita said to you the first time you met her, which was in '92, right?
Yep. Well, the deal was that I'd gone to see her with a friend, and Stanley Kramer had owned the rights, his wife and his daughter, his wife Karen and his daughter Catherine, and a possible director, and a whole crew of people were there, some actors and actresses. So we were there to see Anita perform, to see, if people really were into, just to get them turned on to her, if they wanted to play her in the movie. So I went with an actress named Susan Terrell, who's an Academy nominee, and they wanted her to play the middle-aged Anita. And this is a long time ago, 92. So we went, and Anita might have had a drink or two, too many, before she started the show. So it was a little crazy. It was just kind of a really crazy show, and it was fun and funny and crazy. And sound was good, she was good, but it was still had an element of alcohol attached to it. And that was when she was drinking. She quit drinking in '96 again after she had fallen. So basically, we went, and it was pretty kooky. So I was introduced to her at the end of the show, and we kind of hit it off because I thought she was so great. And she's like, "Come here, kid. Let me tell you about the time that I fucked Capone." And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." So I ran out in the hall after that, kind of ran, and I'd call my dad, and I go, "Who's this lady?" I kind of scared of her, like, "What's the deal, you know?" And he goes, and I said, "It's Anita O'Day." And he goes, "Oh, my God, that's my favorite singer. I didn't even know she was still alive. You don't know who you're with." And I was like, "Okay." Well, so I went back. I heard the story. And then they invited me to come back the next night, and she's like, "I won't be drinking tomorrow night. Come back, and you can take pictures if you want, blah, blah, blah." So I go back the next night, and she didn't drink, and it was really one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen anybody perform or do. I heard it on records, but I'd never really seen anybody do it. And it was breathtaking how incredibly great she was. And took pictures, and we kind of became friends. And I had heard down the line that she had fallen and hurt herself. So years later, about '98, I went and tried to contact her, and I reread her book and thought, hey, this could be a really cool movie. So I went to contact her and found out that she wasn't doing very well. So I made the appointment to go and meet her and her manager and see how she's doing, and I did, and we just kind of bonded. We hit it off, and but what a way to meet somebody, you know?
Yeah. What is it that made you guys think that it would be a good that she'd be a good topic for a documentary? I think you were right, but I'm just curious.
Well, we had, I think when Robbie first thought about making a movie, he was, of course, maybe thinking fiction or, I don't know. We talked about both that. At one point, we thought about maybe writing a script together. He eventually did go write a script, but I know for me, like I had read the book, and then I got so turned on by the music and then started to see performances of her, and I just felt like it would be sorrowful to watch somebody try and do what so few people can do. So to watch an actor try and do this, and moreover, the fact that she's still alive and such a character at 80 and could talk so interesting and funnily about her life made me pretty convinced that the documentary was the more unique approach. And so I think that was basically the feeling, is that, you know, we've seen movies and biopics before, and you know, but the things that are really thrilling about this woman are her character that you get really when she talks about her life and her work, and also the magic in the performance, which I just don't think that you could recreate. So that was sort of my sense.
Her story seems quite different than, say, Billie Holiday, whose life there were drugs involved as well. But the thing I got from watching this is that she was never down on it. I mean, she doesn't seem to regret anything she did. She doesn't. There's no wallowing for her. Am I saying that
right.
Correctly?
That's 100% correct. None of that. None of the above. Not at all. You know, she doesn't look back. You know, and she only looks back to think. If she does look back, she thinks like, God, it's good today. You know. You know, and no, there's none of that at all. She just had no regrets whatsoever. And
that's part of the reason she lived and she survived. I mean, I guess the big other thing about this movie, and you felt this when you met Anita, is like it's like a survivor story. Not only is she like a remarkable talent, but she's also a person, and we've all known people who struggled that way, who survived and figured out how to keep living. And you know, I had a friend, 40-year-old guy who came and saw the movie, didn't know much about Anita, and the thing that he took away, aside from what a talent she was and wanted to buy her records, was this theory of life that he got from her that said the trick is to figure out how to be a good loser. That'll keep you smiling. And it's sort of like, You know, I have kids, and you try and teach your kids to be a good loser. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
But to have someone do that and live their whole life that way, then it starts to mean something. And you get the experience of that in this movie. And I think that's the other thing, aside from the brilliance of the musician and the musicianship and all of that other stuff, that survivor, that person who survived the bad things in her life, I think is a story that many people can appreciate. And we felt that some on the festival circuit.
Yeah, and also in the attitude of being an improvisational jazz performer, you can't really have regrets and be an improv artist, you know, because you're going to look back at everything you do and question it, you know, and she didn't. It was just what she did in the moment and moved on to the next. Life was an improv for her, you know, improvisational.
Mm-hmm.
And which is so brilliant because that's so zen and it's such a great way to live. And, you know, you don't meet people like that. And when you finally meet somebody who's like that amazing, it's like, holy crimoly, you don't want to let them go.
Well, tell listeners about there's one particular music clip of her where she scats an entire song. Where it's interesting because, okay, there's plenty of performers who've done something like that, but the lead up to it, where she talks about, and other people talk about, you know, that she considered her voice to be an instrument, literally part of the band, right?
Yep, absolutely. You know, and
what was that clip from? That
was from a television special that was on the Timex Watch Jazz special, which they did about 2 of them, and the whole premise of the show is like Timex Watches sponsors this jazz thing, and Anita's take on the whole thing was that the biggest part of the whole event was that Timex had strapped a watch onto the bottom of a speedboat, and they were like, during the whole show, they were like speeding the boat all over the place, and the whole idea was their new line of waterproof watches. And then at the end of the show, they take the watch off the boat and unveil it, and the watch had totally broken and was full of water. So that's what Anita's story. That was Anita's recollections of the show. But that was a song that she recorded in 1955 with Russell Garcia on Anita Sings the Winners, and was so like turned on by that, you know, by that whole concept of, oh, they're going to now, you know, this guy, Russell Garcia, really understood her. And he said, I got a song for you you might really dig. It's a song where you don't sing the words, you just sing the notes. And that was such a great challenge to her that's like, all right. But she did some great songs like that with Krupa, you know, and which, you know, the do, that's what you think is kind of a slow, lopey scat, but it's not really like it's like a slow do, you know, so she's been doing it since she was a kid, and just something she just loved to do, and the best part is that the third saxophone sat down and didn't play so she could play his part.
Would I be wrong in saying that she had incredible control over her instrument, her voice, and maybe not so much control over her life itself?
I think it's a decent assessment. I think it's like one of these things too, but...
Say that again, Ian?
I said I think it's a decent assessment, but I think that the not having control over her life would need to be amended by not attempting tremendous control over her life. You know what I mean? And I think that the method was very appropriate for the kind of artist that she was. And for some people, they would say, well, that resulted in a life that was a train wreck. And this is something that I hope we get across in the movie, is that we're trying to show like a portrait of an artist. And the portraits of an artist and her artistry. And in this case, they were totally inseparable. And I remember, because we knew Anita, we hung out with Anita till the end, feeling so much admiration for her in many, many ways, and wishing that you had the courage to live your life that way for the thing that you believe you like to do the most and you were put here to do. But it takes a lot of courage to let all the niceties and comforts of life go by the way for that. I don't think that she thought that she was missing out on anything.
No way.
That was just the way that she
wasn't.
did.
She was doing what she wanted to do, and that's what she did. So all the other stuff was just like, okay, whatever. You know, I'm not interested in that. You know, I don't play that game, is what she used to say.
Did she go to the racetrack if she had $1,000 in her pocket, or if she was making $2 bets? She'd still go to the racetrack.
And one of the interesting things about her is, like, she did not care about money, which was, as somebody who was supposed to be guiding her and being her manager, was very problematic, because I made the mistake of introducing her to the ATM card. So after a while, she got good at the ATM, and she would take her friends, because she lived in a senior building, on a field trip to the ATM. And she's like, how much do you need, folks? And I would be like, oh, my God, I can't believe that. And she had a driver that was such a nice kid, but she used to load him up with quite a bit of dough. He had his apartment, didn't have much furniture. She's like, well, let's go buy you some furniture. You know, and the accountant was calling me, pulling her hair out, going like, oh, my God, what is she doing? And I said, I don't think she cares about money, but that's your job. Reel her in, you know, like save some for herself, you know. So, but she didn't care. It was just, she went, as a matter of fact, in like the 50s, she had gotten a really good paycheck. And she decided, I want to get a Jaguar. She's always liked Jaguars. So she goes to the Jaguar dealer with John Poole, her drummer, and her best friend, Joe Arden. And the three of them go to get her a Jaguar, and the three of them leave with each of their own Jaguars. You know, maybe a month or two later, Anita sells it and decided that she should really just get a Pontiac again. That was more her speed. So, you know, it's like whatever she wanted to do, she did, and if she could afford it, she did it, and if she couldn't, who cares, you know?
She did it anyway.
Yeah.
Was a visit with her kind of like, you know, like you'd leave your nice quiet home and you'd go spend an afternoon or an evening with her? Was it kind of like going to the circus?
It was like the circus times 100, you know, because she had a lot of energy, you know, all the way up to the end. You know, what she would do is, like, we would push her around in a wheelchair because she loved to walk and get out in the air. So when she was walking kind of slow and, you know, towards the very, very end, we would take her out in a wheelchair that we borrowed from her home that she was living in. She was not a nursing home, but an assisted living type deal, so she didn't have to cook, and they did her laundry for her. It was very nice. And we'd take her out in the wheelchair about, like, maybe 2 blocks down. She'd go, let me out of this thing. All right, you sit down. I'll push you. And I was like, well, I don't think that's going to look very good, but what the hell, if that's what you want to do? No, and I didn't do it, but that's what she always wanted to do. And she'd go wandering around, and, you know, people would say, what's with this lady? She doesn't know who she is or where she is, and she just didn't want to tell people or talk to people, you know. It's like, leave me alone, you know, I'm going out for a walk, you know. But she was great. She was a free spirit, and you know, you don't find many people like that. Or if you do find them, you find they're a free spirit, but there's something else dramatically wrong. And that wasn't the case with her. She was a free spirit, and she was a great artist at the same time because she dedicated all of her thought to her music. She lived for music.
How did you guys finance the film?
Well,
begged.
The short answer is private equity. I mean, throughout the process, we continued to raise money from people who absorb the passion for the project or become convinced of the necessity we were trying to do for it. But it was a constant process. It was not like somebody said, "Great, go make your film. Here's." But I think that's a fairly typical raising money for independent.
Well, but also, well, can I chime in on this too? Because there is kind of a neat story here. My sister Jane is a book editor. She edited for some major book houses in New York, and at one point was assigned Carol O'Connor's book, I'm Out of Here, in 1996 or 97. So she went off and started to work with Carol, and she and Carol O'Connor, Archie Bunker from All in the Family. And she and Carol and his wife Nancy became very, very close friends. They worked together for quite a long time on this book and, editing it. And we had a little history with Carol. My grandfather and Carol's father were in jail together in the 30s, so there was some just interesting coincidences. And anyway, so they became friends. I was introduced to them, and we all just kind of hit it off. So Anita's playing at the Iridium, cut to a few years later. Carol had passed away, and Nancy's in New York coincidentally. So I called and said, hey, you want to come see Anita play? And she's like, Anita O'Day? And she goes, I know Anita O'Day. And I said, you do? And she goes, yeah, we were Anita's neighbor in the Malibu colony in 1969 when she was trying to quit heroin. So my sister, my brother's ex-wife, Bunny, was helping her get off the dope because she was a psychiatrist, a psychologist. So she was helping her try to learn how to stay clean and keep off of it. And they were successful. She got off of it then and never went back. And so she had a minor history with Anita. And she said, well, what are you doing? And you're taking care of her? And I said, well, actually, I'm making a movie. And she's like, oh, well, I want to help. And so that's how I got started. Ian had somebody that he worked with, a private investor that he had worked with, so we kind of came together. And through the whole process, we kept everybody involved and showed them cuts and showed them what we were doing. And as people saw what we were doing, they were like, you need more money? Here's more, because people were really liking it. Nancy was falling in love with the movie, and then re-falling in love with Anita because she really admired Anita. A funny story is that I had left Nancy and Anita together, and maybe I can't tell this story, but the two gals got into they had a good time together. They just got a little wild, and that was I came back with some food, and the two of them two Irish gals are sitting at the table, doing what Irish people do, laughing and just really having a ball. That was pretty amazing.
I want to point out, because our time was a little shorter than we thought today, but I want to point out that you guys are not just a couple of chuckleheads who fell into Anita O'Day. You both work in the film industry, and I know, Robbie, you spent some time working with Joni Mitchell in particular. Yeah. And Ian, I noticed on your bio that you among the films you directed one with Michelle Borth, who was a guest on this show just about a week before Tell Me You Love Me debuted.
Oh, yeah, Michelle. Great. Cool.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I want to make sure we point out that we're not talking about a couple amateurs here who, got together and said, hey, let's put on a show,
Oh, thank you. That actually, Ian has made many features ranging with like Juliana Margulies all the way down to, he's had quite a different array of films, one including himself. He's a great actor. Yeah. He should do more of that, and because he's a very funny actor. And then some great people in his films, and I had owned a demo reel editing company, which was kind of prime education for cutting a documentary, because you're cutting documentaries on people 2 or 3 times a day for quite a while. And it was kind of a dream come true, because the films that I had made with Joni on herself were cut by an editor. I had to sit there as the director with an editor trying to interpret what I'm thinking. And finally, I got to get on the machine myself. So by the time I got fluent in it, I was like, "Let's go!" And and Ian was there too. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Robbie and I met in '96 at a Thanksgiving party, and he had just inherited an editing company, and my filmmaking beginnings were in editing. So we both kind of had that sense of how to put a movie together. And in fact, documentaries are really, really made in the editing room. I mean, you have to do the research, and you have to amass all the footage and everything that you can. And that's where I should just mention that in addition to Robbie and myself, there's a third filmmaker, which is Melissa Davis, and she is only a producer, but you know, the movie was made by 3 people really, and because we have a really good working relationship and understand each other, you can put something like this together with kind of the love and care and time that it takes, and it takes time. You know, I've done now 2 movies while we were making this movie, which is, you know, I got a wife and 2 kids, so that just demands that I have to do other things to make a living. But you know, it's a long process to make a movie like this, and to make one well, I think I understand now is probably why it takes even longer time. I mean, we were working until 3 a.m. last night because we're doing our film out right now, and the movie opens in New York and L.A., and it has to be on 35mm print, and we're just trying to make it look as perfect as it can, and you know.
Yeah, and I come from the Joni Mitchell school of making art, you know, which is you take as long as it takes. Right. You know, and you do what you need to do, and you don't stop until it's right, until you feel it's exactly right, and you know, and that's coming from a lady who takes 3 years to make a record. She, you know, but when she was a younger gal, Joni used to make records every year, which knowing her now and how diligent she is about her work, you know, it's pretty phenomenal that she could get 1 record done in a year because she puts so much effort and time into it. But like Anita, you know, Anita's records weren't put together by a producer who said, hey, here's some songs, go and sing them. She really believed in the songs that she sang, and she would only sing songs that she really felt that she could tell the story. And that's, you know, there's something interesting about that because she made 17 records for Verve, and quite a few other records later on, and a bunch of songs with Krupa and a bunch of songs with Kenton. But she actually found a lot of the songs that she sang with Kenton and Krupa. People would come up to her and give her songs left and right. And, you know, she found the musicians, she found songs. She would do as much as she could to be a part of the group and be helpful. And it limited, you know, her catalog. I mean, her record catalog is probably around, you know, 50 or 60 records, maybe 70 records total, as compared to other singers, you know, who sang it, you know, other jazz singers who sang every possible song that was given to them. And Anita's records were very theme-oriented, with 1 arranger or maybe 2 the most on each of them to complement what the theme of the records were, and they were really well thought out pieces of bodies of work, little bodies of work, and not spliced together from 10 sessions all over the country. You know, she really approached it like a painter and did a show, you know, did a gallery, you know, or an album. That's what they said, an album. It's an album, but a true album.
Guys, in the time that we have left, I know you've been doing a lot of festival appearances with the film. How will people be able to see this movie going forward? What's the distribution prospects?
Well, we have distribution, and it opens theatrically in New York and Los Angeles. That's sort of like our first debut as a theatrical release. And
when does it open?
The 15th in New York, and the following weekend in L.A.
The 22nd in Los Angeles.
Of August. And then, you know,
the Lemley Music Hall 3 in L.A. and at the Cinema Village in New York. And you can go to Anita O'Day Anita O'Day, D-O-C, doc.com. Just AnitaO'DayDoc.com, and check out the dates and a lot of other information. And then you can get linked to AnitaO'Day.com and really I did an in-depth website for her, so people could really get to know her and her music really very, very well.
So then I was just going to add to that right now we have a DVD deal in place for right around the 1st of January. So if you can't get to New York to see the movie, you keep checking that website and you pre-order DVDs. You can see the trailer and you know.
As it gets closer to that date. And then also around that time, too, when the DVD release, it will probably have like a mirror release of in selected theaters around the country. But that's all being scheduled now. Everything is moving so fast, you know, that we're just focusing on New York and Los Angeles for now, which is kind of typical in the film industry. And we're kind of playing by the rules of here's what you get now, and later you get this.
Very good.
When you're not Iron Man.
Oh, Iron Man has his place, too.
Oh, we love that movie. I love that. That was a great movie, but they got 3 billion screens.
Listen, so I want to repeat the website, just in case you didn't catch it, folks. It's www.anita, A-N-I-T-A, O'Day, O-D-A-Y, doc, D-O-C, AnitaO'Day.com. And there's even a clip from the beginning of the movie there that you can catch, give you a kind of a taste of the style of the film and a little more of Anita's sound. So Robbie and Ian, I want to thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today. It was a pleasure to have you, and good luck with the movie.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. It's our pleasure, and we hope you. Thank you for your nice compliments, and I'm glad you like it, and I hope everybody out there in podcast land or internet land goes and sees the film because you'll really enjoy it. It's fun. It's not a drippy, dry jazz film by any means. It really is reflective of Anita's life and the look of what that music looked like back then, in terms of the art and style. So. All
right. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on today. And we'll look forward to seeing the movie in theaters soon.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay,
all right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, folks, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my conversations with the stars, writers, and producers of Heroes, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Army Wives, 24, The Big Bang Theory, Pearls Before Swine, Tell Me You Love Me, The Dark Knight, Will Eisner's The Spirit, and many more. And please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, Digital Journal, Blueberry, Zencast, Odeo, or iTunes. Thanks so much for joining us today. I always appreciate, from my heart, that you give up a piece of your day to spend it with us. Come back again real soon, everybody. Bye-bye.